Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the season 6, oh god, premiere of Super Cast Brothers, the Smash Brothers podcast that I don't know how we're still doing it, but we are. I'm Zantok, otherwise known as Lister. That's Jonno, otherwise known as Jonathan. It's honestly, his name's not that dissimilar. You know, they say don't use your real names online, but this guy clearly couldn't read when he started being on the internet because that
My
rule
uncle
just did
told me
not
that
apply.
today.
Your uncle
Yeah,
told
that
you
he
today
just
not to use your real name online.
yeah, he's like, well, people can use your identity. I'm like, oh, it's been
Is
like 20 years.
is your uncle on Facebook?
He used to be, but then he got his Facebook hacked.
Ah, so he's speaking from experience, sort of, but not.
Yeah, but he went by Big Zig.
Moving on. So yeah, it's a new season. Not that seasons for us really stopped because we still just uploaded the season finale of season 5 2 weeks ago. It
Cheers.
happens. But even then, even though that like season finale was 2 weeks ago, technically that wasn't even the end of season 5 because we were doing our Roster Redux project all throughout season 5. And that means so last week the final episode for that one would have gone online, covering bringing that Smash roster up from 100 characters to 128, imagining Smash on like the next console after the Switch, which time of recording, Nintendo still won't tell us about. Please.
Yeah. I'm hoping by the time this episode comes out, that is a different reality, and we're just dating ourselves a little bit. But who knows at this point? I would have suspected something in late September, and it did not happen.
Whenever it happens, I'm going to change the thumbnail for that episode to actually show the console on it, like all the other thumbnails have. It's like, Nintendo, please.
It's gonna be like, we know that the code name for it is ounce now.
Yeah, we know for several leaks, ounce is good, which is a strange code name. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
That not that code names necessarily have any connection to the actual product. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. The
Mm-hmm.
GameCube being Dolphin had nothing to do with the GameCube it was, although several early GameCube games did have a cheeky little reference to Dolphin. The biggest of which being Isle Delfino. But
Mm-hmm.
generally speaking, they don't really have much. They're like the Wii was Revolution, which I guess it kind of was. The Wii U or the Switch. I don't remember what the Switch wasn't that one. No, I think it's something else. I'm not sure what their code names were, but
Uh, Switch code name
was it just NX?
NX. Was it just NX? I think it was.
I know that's what they told us. I guess like kind of with the Wii, they told us Revolution, but they didn't really give us anything else besides that for a while. But we're bringing this up because, as you can tell from this episode's title, we are going to be talking about the Roster Redux project. And while for you viewers, it would have only been a week since the final episode went up, for Jonno and I, it's been months since we last recorded that project, and we kind of thought it'd be fun to just do like a general, like a look back kind of deal. Like what our thoughts were, how we thought the project went, how frustrated we may have gotten at points. Just like a little fun little look at history that because I want to say it was
buddy.
like what 5-6 months ago from when we last
It was
recorded that
quite a while.
episode. I feel like that's accurate, but I don't remember for sure. But it was a good chunk of time ago for you and I, and for all of our guests.
It was like March at the latest. I'm pretty sure it was early in the year.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
Before we
That
get
was
too
really
far,
something.
before I get too far into it though, it's been a while since we've had an on top where we were able to like check in on things. So, what's been going on? What games you been playing? Anything interesting happening in Jonno land over there?
A lot.
Oh,
A lot has been happening. Um, gosh, I'm looking back at our schedule now. I guess the last time we really were able to get into it was in like August with the Mario reflections when Trevor was on. And even then, I mean, it was a guest episode. I don't even recall when the last time we had like a good semi-formal catch up. So I'll
Honestly,
just kind of go back and
I don't think it
yeah,
was. I think it was April. It was probably April because that
that's
was the last
nuts.
on topic we had with no guest, not counting
Hmm.
our season finale where we skip the catch up.
Right, right. Disney's Kingdom Clash, another fun roster project.
It was.
Um, it was fun, and having the dichotomy. I mean, not to harp on this too much because we're going to get into a whole other roster reflection. It was fun, and it was interesting seeing the dichotomy between your moveset and mine. People should go check that out if they haven't yet.
Yes.
I got some direct feedback from Flame Zone on that episode recently, and he was very entertained and tickled in many ways. As was Kelly. So yeah, it's friend endorsed.
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot has happened, keeping it positive though. I mean, I ultimately, and this is true. I made the decision several months ago to work for myself, with arts funding in Arizona, where we're one of 4 states that does not have permanent arts funding in the country. It means that the yearly budget goes in and out, and there's never a guarantee that my industry will be supported by the government in any way, whereas most industries are. So I had my that was one of the few reasons why my hours were cut, rolled back at my previous job. I'm with them on a contract level now, and honestly, I'm happier. I'm happier in that position, not being as stressed and still getting to work with people that I enjoy and get along with and work well with. And I took that opportunity to reinvest myself in uh, elements of who I am in the workspace that I haven't in a long time. Like I'm writing a lot again, doing a lot of contract work for different publications around the country, working with local theaters and symphonies and really just spreading myself out because I think I've learned over the last few months that maybe it's not the best idea in this environment to put all your eggs in one basket. So I haven't. I'm working for myself, which means that some months are better than I have ever been, and some months aren't, and you just kind of have to feel that out. And it's a whole new game of math, but it's been mostly positive, mostly liberating. It's been good. But there were some opportunities that because of the recency of everything that's gone down and my decision and the work world, certain opportunities I had to look over and not pursue at this time, which was unfortunate.
Yeah.
Um, but I've been gaming more, attending more concerts, having more time to take care of my parents, having more time to take care of myself. So generally, I'm happy, and I get to work from home most of the time, which is amazing.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
yeah, but all that said, and I was kind of alluding to something. How are things on your end? What have you been doing lately?
My end's been pretty normal as it usually is. I don't seem to have a whole lot going on my side of things. Still working, still playing games. I did finally
Me
finish Paper
too.
Mario: The Thousand Year Doors, the Switch remake. Um, I didn't. I don't remember. I did not remember anything about the Palace of Shadow existing at all. So I kind of wonder if I ever even went there on the original GameCube version, or if I just stopped playing after the moon, which is certainly possible. I feel like I remember the door opening, the Thousand Year Door, but I don't remember anything about the Palace of Shadow. I thought I remember the boss fight, but maybe I hallucinated that. I don't know. But when I got to the Palace of Shadow, though, I was kind of just like, all right, I'm over it. I want to move on with the game. Can we just get to the end, please? I just
Hmm.
sped through trying to skip as many enemies as I could. And Palace of Shadow is honestly a pain in the ass. Why do we have one final dungeon? Come on, I wanted to be done. But yeah, that. Um, and I've started playing Emio, the Smiling Man, recently.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
the newest game in the Famicom Detective Club series. After they remade the original two games on Switch a couple years ago, they decided, hey, let's make new ones. I'm just like, hey, awesome. I'm not too far in.
Hmm.
I think I might be about a quarter of the way in because I looked up to see how many chapters there were in the game, and I'm somewhere between like a quarter and a third to the game. Not really sure, but I have a couple characters that are like, all right, you're sus, you're really sus. I'm not sure who the killer is yet, but I have a few characters. I'm just like, all right, y'all are weird. Of the people that I've met so far in this game, probably one of you. Assuming, of course,
Hmm.
the killer is a character that I have met at this point in the game, because some games it's not. Sometimes it's just there's a mystery, you just find them. But I feel like this is gonna be one of those where it's like you met them and you get to figure out like which one of them did it.
Did you meet them in the prior Famicom Detective Club games?
No. No.
Okay, interesting. So it would be a twist for that series.
I'm pretty sure.
And something I would say quickly too, the marketing campaign for that game was genius and it's just
Yeah.
so bizarre.
People were
Like,
so convinced that we were
yeah,
gonna get like a big rated M game for the Switch. Like Nintendo was gonna make like their Resident Evil or their Silent Hill. Then it turned out to be a fucking visual novel. I was like, that's great.
very Nintendo. Hey, it was rated M. At least I got that much right.
Yeah, I'm liking it so far though. Like and a couple years ago, I was considering making a move set for Ayumi Tachibana, who is the player's assistant in the Detective Club games. But I wasn't like getting enough ideas that I liked to flesh her out. So I'm hoping
Hmm.
by the time I get finished playing this game, I'll be able to pick that up again and make a move set for her. One thing I have
Was
noted.
Yumi in this game?
Yeah, yeah, she's in this game. She's
Cool.
actually a you actually directly play as her in parts of it now, because like her and the player character who is just an avatar that you can get the name. They actually like go there. I don't remember if they did this in the second game or not, but there's a point where it's like your both characters go in separate directions. So like the game has having me like go back and forth between them a little bit as they both do their own parts of the investigation.
Right.
I feel like that might have happened in the second game. I'm not sure. It definitely didn't happen in the first game though.
Okay. Interesting.
If you're also curiously, for
Um,
those that don't know, the second game is actually a prequel to the first game, but do not do this play things in chronological order shit. People, just to go on a brief little rant here, people that are just like, hey, here's the chronological order of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You should watch movies in this order. It's like, no, you shouldn't. They release them in a certain order for a reason. Don't play The
noted.
Girl Who Stands Behind before you play The Missing Heir. There's really
Aren't these
you
on?
there's nothing like you'll really like screw up by doing it in that order, but you're definitely meant to play The Missing Heir first.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting and noted. You did you did you play these games on Select Start Gaming? I'm forgetting.
No, no, I didn't. I didn't. I kind of wish I
Okay.
had, and if I did, then I would have done the same thing with this one. But I played them on my own, which unfortunately means
Nice.
like
Okay.
kind of similar to the attorney games. I feel like I can't record them now because all my reactions
Hmm.
aren't gonna be like a mystery game. You gotta if you're gonna record it, you gotta do it your first time through. You really do.
Well, yeah. At least you did Danganronpa that way,
Yeah, and I did
which
record the
was
first Ace
fun.
Attorney game, but I
Hmm.
definitely could tell like as I was doing, just like this would be a much better product if I didn't already know the game.
Hmm. Yep. I hear you. Okay. Cool.
But then one other big thing happened recently.
You played
I
Echoes of
took
Wisdom as well.
no, actually, I did watch a little bit of it though, and it's like, oh wow, this looks pretty good. But no,
I'm playing it. It's good.
okay,
Anyway, yeah. Zelda. It's
yeah,
there.
anyway, I took a trip recently to a little place. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's not really well known. It's kind of like a small island nation, really. Have you heard of Canada?
Is that similar to Australasia?
No, no. Actually, let me give it to you in like the let me Americanize the pronunciation here for you. That might help you out. Have you ever heard of Canada?
Only recently. Only
Really?
recently.
Okay.
When you went there, I wasn't aware of what this place was.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's just like a small little place. Not a whole lot of people go there. It's like they're better known for their geese and
Hmm.
their syrup, if anything else. But it's a it's
Yeah,
a it's a little place.
I have enjoyed their syrup. I will say that much.
Oh, okay, okay. But
Yeah,
yeah. Jokes aside, mutual friend Eebit was getting married. Sent out some invites for people to come attend. You and I were both invited. You unfortunately were not able to go due to reasons. I went, had a good time. I actually, time of recording, I got back yesterday. So it's very fresh for me. Uh,
yeah.
and I think something fun that viewers might like to see is the suit that I wore. Because I did not wear a normal black suit. Because I think that's boring. Also, suits are uncomfortable. And if I'm going to have to wear an uncomfortable suit because I'm a comfort person over a fashion person, fuck that shit. If I'm going to have to wear a suit,
Wanted to know.
I'm going to make it fun. So, I am putting up a picture here on the video for people to see. Once I can find it. There
I
it
did
is.
help you pick out the suit, so I'll give myself that credit.
Oh, God, the picture loaded in super huge. Let me fix that. Boom! There it is. There's a photo. Obviously, that's me on the left. You can tell. And then on the right, that's the groom, our mutual friend Eebit, Jake. He's been on the podcast quite a bit. I'm sure he'll be on here later this season as well. But yeah, so that picture that shows the suit I'm wearing, it's Mario. A bunch of Mario characters are all over it, both on the jacket, the tie, and the pants. But the pants aren't in this picture. I picked.
Hmm.
I thought about grabbing like a full body picture, but all the ones I had was like, okay, there were people that like non
With the
podcast
group.
people. Yeah, non podcast people, and I
Yeah,
didn't want to like include them because they're not associated with the show. And also, this was the only photo they had that was like just me and Ebit. So I wanted to do that picture.
yeah.
It made
A
sense.
nice memory to have.
Yeah, and like I look terrified in the picture because like I'm not. People in our community know that I'm not a big hug person. But Jake was just like, "Can I get a hug for the picture?" It's like, "Fine, but I'm gonna stand here and I'm just gonna stand here for it." And he's like, "That's totally fine." And then people taking the picture, I was like, "And I'm gonna make a face that looks like I'm terrified." Because hell yes, it's funny to me. And the sunglasses that I'm wearing on top of my head in that picture, um, when we got out of the church from the wedding, the sun blaring in my eyes. Hate that. And then one of the people that went with us, another mutual friend of ours who's not with the podcast, uh, offered her sunglasses to me, or one of her pairs of sunglasses. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. Yeah.
Oh.
And she's like,
Nice.
it's like, they're pink, just so you're aware. It's like, I don't give a shit. I don't care if they're fucking
Mhm.
pink.
Yo,
Get the
yo,
sun out
they
of my
fit
eyes.
with the suit. They fit with the suit, man. It worked. It worked. Um, yeah, you made it work. I will say, like, honest truth, you look good. You look good. You cleaned up well. The blazer, I mean, that was totally you. I showed that picture to Flame Zone earlier
Yeah.
because he and I have been talking. And he said, Lister is an enigma and a baller. And I was like, yeah.
I got a lot of comments on that suit. A couple people
Yeah.
wanted to take pictures of it. I was concerned that like people were gonna be like, "Who's this person in their not black suit? They're ruining their." But no, like
Yeah.
even like some of the older people were just like, no, that's fucking awesome. It's like, hell yes.
I had wondered, like, people outside of our age group or outside of our group of people that we know. So that's great.
Yeah,
That's good. That's fun.
it was a
Yeah,
good time.
and
The only time about it that wasn't good was during the reception, where it was like, okay, and now we're gonna open up the dance floor, and the music just got louder. And as you know, and some of our viewers may know, I'm not a music person. I'm especially not a dancing person. I'm not a loud ear blasting music person. So I tried to last in
Mhm.
it, and about 20 minutes into the loud music portion, I just like one of our friends with attention. I was told him, like, I'm gonna go find someplace quiet away from all of this, because holy
Mhm.
hell. So I went
Yeah, yeah,
downstairs
yeah.
and I found like a little seating area. I was just like, I'm gonna spend the rest of the night down here.
Yep. Sounds like maybe one of our friends joined you for a while or something.
Actually, a few different ones like cycled around, like um mostly like I don't want to say names like because they're not associated with the podcast, but a variety of people
Hmm.
from our group like would come down, or like one of our friends is his father came down and shared a few stories of his college years. Just like, oh my god, you were the type of person that rules are made because of you.
So that's when that happened. That's funny.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
great.
that's when that
Got
story
some
was told. I was
one-on-one
telling you
time
about
with him.
earlier. But yeah, it was a good
Um,
time though.
yeah, good. I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad that so many of us from that friend group were able to be there. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. But there will be time. There will be time to remedy that, I'm sure. My only concern is that it's probably never going to happen again where we can all get in the same space.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm sorry I missed, because that was like a history making thing. But at the end of the day, you and I have hung out in person a few times. I think the next time we do, we should do like this in one
I
camera
you and I have
in
been
some
talking about
space.
that for like the past 3 or 4 seasons. We've been talking about how like we can do
Yeah,
like an episode where like in the same space. The only
yeah.
problem with that being my setup is on my PC. So I don't
Hmm.
know how that will work
Hmm.
out unless you come like just like actually go to my house. It's like I don't know how else to do
That's one
that.
solution.
Because
That's one
like
solution.
it's
Yeah,
like
for
I could
sure.
get like the basic recording, like this recording format stuff on a laptop, but I'm not gonna have my microphone or a bunch of other stuff. So I don't know how that'll go. But it's definitely
Well,
something that we can do.
the solution for if I were to go to you would be to just record it from your place.
Yeah.
The solution for if you were to come to me, I have ideas.
Oh dear.
And we'll talk about them, but they are cool.
Oh boy.
And quick shout out though to Eebit. Congratulations on the marriage. I mean, for our viewers, this is 1 week after uh, I had a total meltdown in front of him about Donkey Kong
Yeah,
Jr. So I mean, hey, I'm glad. I mean, you could say that that's why I didn't go to the wedding.
that
But
got
hey,
talked about as
think
well.
who brought it up?
He
Was it
did.
you or him?
He did. And it wasn't even a conversation with me. It was with
Really?
Moo.
At least it wasn't with a stranger. At
No.
least it wasn't like,
No.
hey, dad, or what? Talking to his father.
No, and they
Things were,
like they're
yeah.
good. Like
I,
they're on their honeymoon right now. They went to Scotland. I don't know how long they're going to be there. They'll probably be home by the time this episode goes up. I would hope,
mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm,
it was good.
mm-hmm. Well, good, good. Yeah, and congratulations to him and his wife, who we've also known for a long time. And I mean, again, I'm not going to name her because, as you said, she's not like a podcast person, but she's been our person in our space for 15 years now,
Yeah,
which I think was about as long as they've been dating. And
yeah,
he
yeah.
he
We
had
got to
known
learn
her
some
since.
history on that. Like they knew each other from like
Nice. First grade.
childhood. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then like
Yeah.
apparently they
Yeah.
hated each other at first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Jake was a fuck boy and she wasn't.
I don't
He was
think
like,
a
I hate
first
Donkey
grader
Kong.
can be a fuck boy.
Well, in high school he was. We can all agree on that.
No, I think by that point they were already friends.
Oh, too bad.
I don't know if they
But
said
you
like
know when
when they stopped hating each other, but like initially,
yeah,
like when they were kids, they hated each other, which made it awkward for one of their mutual friends, which is like, these are my two best friends and they hate each other. What do I do?
yeah, 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 yeah. That's funny. That's funny. But yeah, it was so you and I weirdly have been on this journey with him since the start of the relationship. Um Crazy.
I
And
mean,
congratulations to them.
we knew him before they were dating, but they definitely knew each other first.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I just meant like when they started to date, that's when he brought her into our fold.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's cool. That's awesome. Scotland, it's a wonderful place this time of year. You grow a lot of cabbage up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I'm just guessing
be,
for the veggie tray.
moving on from that, before Jono is allowed to go on a tangent, that's what's been going on with the two of us. I'm hoping to finish up Imeo relatively soon. Although I'm always getting pulled to various other projects, so who knows when I'll actually finish it. But let's actually get into the topic of today's episode. A look back on Roster Redux. Again, it's only been a week for viewers since the final episode got posted, and we got to see the big argument of Donkey Kong Jr. Oh boy. Uh, uh I had to shut that down. It's like, all right, we are going on too long with this fight. If I don't stop the two of you, somebody's feelings are going to get seriously hurt. And I'm not having that happen here. But it's been months for us, so let's chat about it. We started out with this whole thing being, what if Smash has started on the original NES? How many characters would there have been?
Mm-hmm.
Who would have made it on? And then just continue from there, adding in a new game with each console, and having a different guest on every episode. And this whole project began. It's like sort of like the quote unquote sequel to when you and I did this with just the two of us over Messenger. Before we even started this podcast, we did this thing, just the two of us. And there was definitely a difference in some characters. For example, I can tell you, I'm not sure if my numbers on here are entirely correct, but there were roughly, across both times that we did Roster Redux, both between just with us and then with Super Cast Brothers, we had roughly 270 different characters we talked about. But for the and for the Super Cast Brothers version of it, it was 234 characters that were considered. So that means there are a lot that we didn't consider in the original version. And that's largely talked up to characters that were brought up by our guests that you and I wouldn't have considered normally, or at least on it like at that point in the adventure, which added a lot more fun to it for us, or at least for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. The diversity of the roster choices between ourselves and our guests, and having that guest on. We didn't have guests on when we were just doing it between ourselves on Messenger, of course. But having that extra layer, bringing in a different guest every episode, it brought a different flavor to each era that we were pursuing. And sometimes the guest would be just on a wildly different plane than us in terms of their character choices, where they were coming from, with why they chose them, and workshopping that in, where we had a process that we just kind of naturally worked around. Where it's like, okay, how can we kind of like by symbiosis kind of adopt some of what they're putting out there on the fly. It was interesting, and it brought a new layer to that experience that I enjoyed.
Yeah, it was definitely stressful at some point, especially the last 3 episodes that we did, because things started getting progressively longer. And I think it was starting with those last. I think it was starting the episode with Azza. Maybe it was the episode before. We had to start recording in multiple recording sessions because it was just getting too long, too unwieldy. Uh, all 3 of us needed a break.
Yeah.
Sometimes because it was getting late at night, sometimes because tensions were running a little high.
I think
Oh,
it was with Way Off Trail. It was
it
the
was Whale
Way
Trail.
Off
Okay,
Trail
so
was the first,
so it was
yeah, the
four
first one
episodes
we
of
did
that.
in two. Hmm.
Okay.
But Way Off Trail's episode was fairly drama free. But like we were still, I think we were still riding off of the high of like, okay, we're making this good pace. Like NES, the Super Nintendo 64, GameCube, like all those were one shot episodes. We had our differences with the guests, but overall, it's like, okay, we're building something here. It's a historic occasion in this
Yeah.
alternate universe because then we get into Mike's episode, and that's kind of what I was alluding to. Like he had a very different idea of how to approach building Brawl than
Yeah.
we did. Like with like I'll
A
say with
lot
the
of
multiple
Sony.
Sony characters that we had to work around, and it wasn't a frustration for me at all because we were able to kind of convince him like this is why we don't have these characters here, even though they're iconic, etc. Fairly early on, and then he's starting to see these picks come in, like Mega Man and Pac-Man. He's like, "Oh, I see what you're talking about."
Yeah. Yeah.
but but that is the start of when it started to get a little long.
Yes.
Um, and I'm looking. We released that in June, so at the time I was recording from my friend's house as well. So it was just so odd. It was so bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Um, recording that twice from a different environment with having to kind of acclimate ourselves to this new idea that Mike was bringing, just a larger roster and whatever. But it wasn't really until the Ozza episode that I personally, I think we did a lot of good with these last 3 episodes. We built a great total roster that I'm proud of,
Yeah.
and it's interesting. But yeah, that's when the tension started to bubble a little bit.
Was there tension in
Yeah,
the Wii U episode with Ozzy? I personally just I don't remember.
yeah. Mhm.
Unless
Um, very slight, very slight, very slight.
okay,
Nothing
because
to write
I'm
home
looking
about.
at like who didn't make the cut. The only characters I think there might have been tension with was Palutena.
Nah, even then, um,
Because I
not a
remember
character I'm personally invested in.
you wanted Palutena, and we were going with Medusa or It was Veridi.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I remember
Yeah.
then. And I think part for me, it's like I like in the last two was like we were also I think just vaguely where it's like we're almost done. We are quote unquote like running out of slots. So it's like our last times to argue for characters that we're passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was part of it too. But for me at that time, it wasn't tension between you and Ozza or tension between you and anyone else. For me, it was tension. The tension was exactly that. It was we're running on a clock now, and this is the last opportunity to choose certain characters. So there's a natural stress to that. And like literally, we are running on a clock, and we're clocking in these historic runtimes for these episodes,
Yeah.
especially the last two. I love
11 and a
Jacob
half
and I love
hours.
Kelly. Yeah. But oh my word, those last 2 episodes were egregiously long.
Yeah.
After we were done with Jake's episode, the finale for the next gen system smash, I was like, we are never doing anything remotely that long again, or I fucking quit.
I know how to end the
It's like, oh,
show.
hmm it's like there's my takeaway from all this.
Mhm.
Ultimately, it's like, wow, I'm glad we did it, and I never want to do it ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I love the
Yeah.
project. I thought it was a lot of fun, but I definitely understand that. Like I would love to do like something like this again, but I think we did something like this again. It would be more like And I think I may have alluded to this in that last episode with Jake, but again, that was like 6 months ago at least, so I don't remember for sure. But like doing it from like a
Mhm.
like a PlayStation All Stars one, or like a Microsoft Fighting Combat Evolved. I
You and
don't
I
fucking know,
definitely have
but
talked
like
about that.
yeah, but like
Hmm.
that would be like less consoles and
Hmm.
less familiarity with the characters, so probably a lot less stress. It's like for Microsoft, it's like, okay, so we got Master Chief, yeah. So who else? I don't know, just kind of like random characters. At this point, it's like cool. Like who else do they have on the
Marcus
original Xbox?
Phoenix. Someone.
Yeah,
Viva Pinata.
it's like I think if we did that, we'd probably do Sony first, if only because there's just better familiarity and more recognizability with
More
characters.
more relevant. Yeah.
Yeah,
We would be
Microsoft's like
we would be
hey,
actively
yep,
we would be actively making it the Microsoft XS like more, I mean the Xbox XS more relevant with our
yeah,
episode about
yeah, we would.
it.
It's also just harder because like Xbox isn't like they own games, but they don't like have as many like iconic hits. Like, oh, it's just like now they technically own Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, but you can't put Crash and Spyro on
Hmm.
like their 360 roster. That would not make any
No.
sense. Well,
Put them on the PS1 Smash roster.
I think Crash is on the 360, and Spyro might be as well. But I still probably wouldn't pick them to represent a Microsoft fighting game,
Hmm.
just because those games were not great.
Um,
But
you could do Sega consoles too. That would be weird. Um,
you could. I don't know that I would have like as much
mhm.
of familiarity with that. I think that might be difficult for different reasons.
Atari Smash. Who would appear on the Lynx version?
Um, Left Pong Paddle.
All right, cool.
Yep,
I was gonna say Pitfall Harry. Probably
that was
both of
the
them.
next one I thought of. Was Pitfall Harry.
Paperboy, all the classics.
Yeah,
Centipede.
Pac-Man.
Um, I would not be surprised if we did a Sony version at the very least one of these days.
Yeah, in a few seasons probably. I don't know when. I'm not going to say a number, but in a few seasons at the earliest.
Yeah, what I can say is it's not this season.
Nope. I can confirm.
But yeah.
While we do have something extra planned, roster
Right.
related, it's not going to be Roster Redux.
It'll be something else fun.
Yeah.
Something
That,
else fun and nowhere near as involved, like not like 10 episodes. Okay,
yeah.
what?
I'm not sure
Hmm.
yet when that's one's supposed to upload. I think I need to still pick a spot for it,
So kind
but
of,
that'll be interesting. Little
yeah,
tease.
fun exercise.
Yeah.
Kind of like the what was I don't even know anymore. But where do you want to take this discussion next with reflecting on Roster Redux?
So let's talk about some stats a little bit. I mentioned that there were 234 different characters that were all considered for this game. And there were a lot of characters, like sometimes they would make it in on their first run, sometimes they'd be denied first, and then they'd make it on their second game appearance. Some characters would be denied multiple times. But I can tell you that there's only
Hmm.
one character that was denied 3 times.
Oh,
Several
brother.
characters were denied twice and they made it on their third attempt. But only one character was denied 3 times.
Okay.
Take some guesses.
Chic.
Sheik was only mentioned, I believe, once. And yeah, only once. And we decided, all right, if we're gonna give a second, like a second thing for Ganon or for Zelda, we decided to go for Ganon to have both Ganon and Ganondorf. And Sheik did not make the final cut.
Okay.
Funnily enough,
Balloon
though,
Fighter.
I think Sheik is the only character to be nominated by all 3 people and not make the cut.
I think so too. That was memorable.
Yeah,
That was memorable. Oh wait, Balloon Fighter made it. What am I saying?
yeah. Balloon Fighter did
Although
make it on the
he
third
was.
attempt.
Hmm. Uh, it wasn't DK Junior. I know we talked about him twice.
Oh yeah, only twice. Although you did mention Classic
Hmm.
Kong. for Wii, I think, or
Melee.
GameCube.
Melee.
Okay.
Yep. That was an interesting moment in our lives.
Yeah, I don't know
Instead,
what
Dumban
you were
Hikari
thinking
made
with
it.
that one.
It was, DK himself was evolving into his country form, so why not have his classic form there as like a nod to Mr. Game and Watch and the classic Donkey Kong?
Or just have Mr. Game and Watch.
Yeah, but Mr. Game and Watch doesn't roll barrels.
So?
um. I'm drawing a blank.
Well,
Who was it?
it wasn't somebody that you ever nominated. I was the only one to ever nominate this character.
Okay.
And they weren't the only character from their series that was nominated and rejected. Twice I nominated Lloyd Irving for the Tales series. He was nominated for both the Wii and Switch versions of the roster. Wii by me, Switch by Kelly Jelly. I don't know. I think Kelly nominated him because like the whole, it's like he's like the one that Smash fans still talk about the most. And Wii, I think I nominated him because that's when he would have been the most recent. But who I nominated 3 times for Wii U, Switch, and Next Gen, and got denied all 3 times was Yuri Lowell, the protagonist of Tales of Vesperia, who
Okay.
is who I nominated each time because at a certain point he became the newer protagonist over Lloyd, and also he is considered by the Tales fandom to be the most popular character. No fucking contest. It's like okay, and that stands him out to me as the nominee, regardless of what Sakurai said in the past about Lloyd being the only choice. It's like I don't think that's true, Sakurai. Might want to look at Yuri.
Yeah, and I think at this point too that Yuri would have a great chance at being the Tails rep. If Tails got into Smash.
Yeah, it
Wouldn't
would
be the.
be it'd be him, Lloyd, or whoever is the most recent protagonist at that time.
hmm Yeah, him or Lloyd, I would not be surprised by at all. Um, Kind of a toss up there though, but it wouldn't be the first time Sakurai reassessed what he said.
Yeah,
Count again, like with Villager and some of the other classic arguments.
Villager,
Um,
Ridley, probably Wii Fit
mhm,
Trainer.
mhm. That's interesting. That
Beans,
yeah. Now
Pac-Man.
that you mentioned Yuri, like yeah, that was something that happened. It was such a kind of like a non-event from what I remember. We each time we passed him over, it wasn't like directly against him. It was like, oh, we're picking X over him in a batch of other characters.
Yeah, and if you look at franchises, Resident Evil. In 64, I nominated Leon Kennedy. Kurt Walker nominated Jill Valentine. Both got rejected. For GameCube, I nominated Jill at that point. She got rejected again. And then at that, because I was nominating based on like who was the newest protagonist at the time, going Jill over Chris because more interesting choice. And then after that, for Switch and for Next Gen, I switched to nominating Albert Wesker as like the whole series-wide villain, since at that point the series has established that there's not a single central protagonist. We rotate them around. But Wesker, even after his death, is still seen as like the bad guy of Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Definitely,
we
and
are
he was our
three.
last character.
Yeah, we are 3 games after Wesker's death, and he is still like the Resident Evil bad guy. I'm sorry, people
hmm
who wish to be stepped upon, but it's not Lady Dimitrescu.
She dies first in her game,
Which I found
so I mean,
hilarious that she was in such heavy marketing for Resident
hmm
Evil 8, and people were just like, "Oh my god, big vampire mommy," and then she's dead in like the first 30 minutes. It's like, wow, that's incredible.
yeah,
But
it was pretty great, honestly. Yeah.
yeah, another stat I want to throw at you, and it's going to be another thing I want you to try to make a prediction of. There were obviously not every character that is an actual Smash Bros. Veteran made it onto our Roster Redux project. how many
Yeah.
characters do you think didn't make it from Smash Canon?
Hmm. I think. Okay. I'm gonna guess like 17.
17, huh?
Yeah.
So here's the thing about the number 17. I want you to double that number.
Okay. Double the number. That's
34.
34.
34.
34 veterans were not. Wow.
Yeah. Kind of wild. And it was at least one from each game. I'll just quickly go down the list here for you. Jigglypuff. And some of these characters were actually like considered, but then just didn't make the cut. But we didn't include Jigglypuff, Dr. Mario, Sheik, Young Link, Pichu, the Ice Climbers, Roy, Toon Link, Zero Suit Samus, Squirtle, Ivysaur, Charizard, Lucas, Greninja, Lucina, Corrin, Palutena, Dark Pit, Villager, Classic Mega Man. I say that because we included Mega Man X instead. Me Brawler, me Sword Fighter, me Gunner, Daisy, Piranha Plant, Incineroar, Crom, Byleth, Pyra, Mithra, Min Min, Kin, Sephiroth, and Richter Belmont.
You know what's weird is that, going down that entire list and considering who we did include, no real big losses.
I think the biggest loss, objectively speaking, is probably Charizard.
Yeah.
Considering just like the sheer
extreme.
And I think Charizard didn't make it on here for two reasons. I feel like one, you and I are both in the camp of, oh my god, please stop shoving Charizard down our throats. And two, we were on this whole thing. We were just like, okay, we're representing every generation of Pokemon, and at no point did we ever go backwards to represent an older generation. And the only reason Gen 1 got, I think it's 3 Pokemon, is because they got 2 in 64, and then it got another one in GameCube, because only Gen 2, it was only Gen 1 and Gen 2 were out by that point, so it wasn't weird to have another Gen 1 Pokemon.
Right. Yeah, Charizard, I mean, he is extremely popular, the most popular Pokemon internationally, I think, still.
Yeah. Probably.
But and our friends like Flame Zone, I mean, they're huge fans, and they're like, hey, why isn't Charizard here? Yada yada. And we just keep getting this feedback back that it's like, oh, this would have been a great opportunity to include Charizard because of whatever.
Yeah.
His mega form or blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
like,
so
yeah.
it's like, oh, for Gen 6, you could have Charizard be the Gen 6 rep because of Mega Evolution. And I saw that message and I immediately like pulled a face and it's like, no. I'd rather represent like I get where he was coming from with that, but it was like I would rather have an actual Generation 6 new Pokemon, not just something that was in the decks for nostalgia reasons and then also got a Mega Evolution. Because I mean, like, like then Charizard could also be a Generation 8 rep, and that's no, no. We're not picking Charizard because he's Leon's ace Pokemon on his champion team. What the fuck, Leon? You should have Pokemon from your region, your generation, and having Gigantamax Charizard. Like, no, we didn't want to do it that way. We wanted to like actually give each generation the representation they deserve, because Smash, largely due to like timing of gaming releases, some Pokemon generations have just like gotten skipped over. Gen 3, Gen 5, Gen 8, and Gen 9 at this point are probably going to get skipped unless the next Smash is in development right fucking now, in which case maybe we'll get Tinkaton.
Yeah, that would be cool. Speaking of our Pokemon selection, that's one of the spaces where we've built a rhythm. We got deliberate with our choices, and I'm pretty proud of what we came up with for Pokemon representation here. It's certainly better than what we have in Smash proper.
Yeah, yeah. And like I do acknowledge that we definitely pigeonholed ourselves when it came to the Pokemon reps and how we approached adding them. Because like Fire Emblem, we didn't let that necessarily like hold us back. Fire Emblem, we weren't afraid to like look back a little bit, but we didn't do it too much. But we weren't afraid to like
Mm-hmm.
consider older things. Celica being a prime choice, even though she did get a remake through her game. But Pokemon, it was always just like whatever is the newest thing, while keeping each generation represented. But we never went backwards once Brawl hit. There was no more
Oh, and
no adding like
yeah,
a like Charizard or a Gen 2 Pokemon again. We had our one.
and it's for Alligator, who is freaking awesome. So
Yeah.
no complaints here. Um, and Blaziken, solid. Lucario, Pokemon Ranger was an inspired choice
Yeah. I
for
was
Metal
honestly like
for
because like obviously I
Masa.
would get the list from both you and our guest before we do the episode because I had to like get graphics all set up. And like for the Wii U episode, you sent me that you're gonna nominate in as the Gen 5 rep. I was like, ooh, oh, that's interesting. I'm totally good to argue against Zoroark and go within. And then Ozza sent in Pokemon Ranger. And it's like, oh, oh shit. Yeah, get fucked in. You're out. Pokemon Ranger. Let's go. That's even more interesting and unique.
Yeah, bizarre. Yeah, that was an interesting turn.
Yeah.
Um, then in the next episode, I remember arguing Sylveon, and you're like, "What?"
Yeah. Like I get why, because like, representing whole fairy type and also evolutions are uh probably the most popular subset group of Pokemon.
Hmm.
Almost every single evolution is a fan favorite. I'm trying. Is Flareon the only Flareon one that isn't? I'm not sure. Like people like Flareon, but unfortunately, just like it's objectively the worst stat and
I was
move
gonna
pool
say it's not.
wise.
It's not my fan. It's not my favorite of the
No,
evolutions. That's for sure.
I think
Yeah.
like design wise, it's my favorite of the Gen 1 evolutions.
Yeah, that's fair.
Jolteon just looks like it would hurt.
Vaporeon
And I
looks a little goofy.
Yeah, like I personally am a fan of Leafeon and Glaceon the most, and Espeon and Umbreon I am not a fan of. Sorry, internet. The most popular evolutions, I don't like them. I just don't. I think Umbreon is too basic, and I think Espeon is unsettling. That's just me. But yeah, so
Oh
I so like
boy.
I get arguing Sylveon. I still disagree, but it's whatever.
What episode was that? That would have
That
been.
was that was Ultimate with Kelly.
Oh, and remember, it just came down to like I don't even remember who else was nominated for the Pokemon that episode.
Gen
But
6, it was just Hawlucha versus Sylveon, and then we all three had Decidueye for Gen 7.
right, which is a wrong that had been righted against Tony the Tiger.
Yeah.
Good fucking god. One of the most egregious and bizarre choices in Smash Canon. I utterly disagree with Sakurai upon. I was like,
The,
okay.
the only thing I will give him is that Incineroar having a wrestler basis, like, okay, yes, you could make something unique there. You're not wrong. But there's also other choices. If you wanted a wrestling character, there's other choices.
Yeah, 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 precisely. Just give us the pro wrestling character at that point. I don't care, but
Yeah.
I mean, Decidueye should not be denied. Um, I remember the argument just came down to like, Sylveon is important enough that it was on the back of the box for its gen. You're like,
Oh,
no, it wasn't,
God,
and then
that's
you picked it
right.
up, and you're like, oh my god, there they because I had bet you like if Sylveon's on the back of the box, you're putting Sylveon in, and you're like, okay, and then you looked at the back of the box and it was on there. That was pretty funny to me.
And they didn't even put Hawlucha in Pokken Tournament, which would have been the perfect place for it. Instead, we get Pikachu Libre as a luchador representation. It's like, Hawlucha is literally the lucha Pokemon. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, look at its heart-shaped tail. You can tell it's a girl.
I hate them.
And then we rounded up with Toxtricity and Tinkaton, and that was great.
If they
No
wanted to
notes there.
include cosplay Pikachu, pick something pick like the scientist one, or the Bell Pikachu, or the Rocker Pikachu. Something that's not like a fucking established fighting style that you already have a Pokemon to represent.
Yep. I don't know what they're thinking besides Pikachu's makes money. But come on, Halucha is right there.
It's frustrating.
I remember that final episode with Eebit. We're wrapping up the Pokemon selection, and he kind of wanted to shy away from having 2 Pokemon. He was like, "What if we just kind of don't have a Pokemon for every gen?" And you and I were like, "No,
Yeah,
we're so close to the end here. We're gonna see this one through."
Like to be fair, in Smash Wii U, we could have added a Gen 6 Pokemon there, but we actually no wait. Oh, yeah. Because I nominated Halucha because Gen 6 wasn't available then, but neither you nor Ozza nominated a Gen 6 Pokemon, so Halucha didn't make the cut there. So, like, technically speaking, like, the argument could have been include a Gen 8 Pokemon, but not a Gen 9, and then Gen 9 gets in next time. I don't remember, like, who Eebit would have been saying, like, to do 8 or 9. I'm not sure. He probably would have said 9 because Tinkaton was one of his reps. Although he also gave us a Gen 8 Pokemon with Urshifu. But it's like, nah, we need to. We were definitely gung ho on like we need to have all the gens in here.
Yeah, for sure. There are a couple other series that I'd like to highlight during our talk here, and I guess you mentioned it. So hopping over to Fire Emblem,
that one had a few
unquestionably, but unquestionably superior to again, like proper Smash. There are 2 areas continuously in the Smash development cycle that make me scratch my head, and that's with Fire Emblem representation and with Zelda representation. Zelda being the 3rd biggest leg of Nintendo's money-making machine and having the same 5 characters since Melee.
Arguably,
essentially.
Yeah.
3 variations of Link, 2 variations of Zelda, and Ganondorf, who is a variation of Captain Falcon. And then Fire Emblem, who, people bitch and moan about there being too many Fire Emblem characters, but the argument we've established...
There's Marth, Fire Marth, Buff Marth, trying to remember, okay, it was just Brawl only added. I was trying to figure out, like, wait, who else did we get then? It's like, oh, nobody. Then we had Girl Marth, and Magic Marth, and Dragon Marth, and Dad Marth, and Teacher Marth.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
And if we got a Leer, we'd have Marth.
Oh my god! And to be fair, like we make the Marth joke. Only half of them are Marth. Like, Byleth is definitely not a Marth. Corrin is definitely not a Marth. But Marth, Roy, Chrom, and Lucina, come listen.
Are Marth.
Listen, like Roy got differentiated up a little bit with some of his normal attacks. It's starting in Smash 4. But he's still very, very similar to Marth. And then Lucina was added in Smash 4 as a new clone fighter of Marth, and then got rebranded as an Echo in Ultimate. And then Chrom was added to be an Echo of Roy, who is already himself now a semi-clone of Marth. And it's like, what the fuck? No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Does the Smash community elevate that issue a little bit? Like, oh, another blue-haired swordsman, wham. Yes, but unquestionably, Fire Emblem is misrepresented. I mean, they have 4 Marth and then 3 variations of him, and then they have 4 other characters who, in some capacity, also use swords. When you have a weapon triangle, you have magic. There are ways that you can represent the series better, and it's just not.
To be fair, most Fire Emblem playable protagonists, I say playable, like main protagonists, are sword fighters. It's like, okay, so it makes sense, but I fights differently.
Yep.
He's more about strength and like a big old sword compared to like Marth's Falchion. Lindis,
Mm-hmm.
who to be fair, her best shot was Brawl. She would have
Mm-hmm.
more like a quick samurai like style and could use a bow. Robin, magic and sword. Okay, cool. We're starting to differentiate things here. Lucina, I can kind of excuse Lucina, but in Corin, while we bitch about the timing of him being added in, very unique character. He's actually one of the characters I'm best at using in Ultimate.
Yeah.
Eebit and I, when we after we got there, we played a few rounds of Smash, and I was mostly doing random. And he was winning most of the matches. Random, not to use it as an excuse, but random was also giving me characters that I'm not great with. Thanks. But then like we were saying like, okay, this is gonna be our final match. I was like, what character do I want to use for the final match? And at first I was just like, okay, I like Cloud, I like Ike, I like Bowser, but I was like, actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna use Corrin.
Yeah.
I actually legitimately like using Corrin in Smash, but
Yeah.
it's like Smash representation easily at this point. Cut Lucina and cut Crumb and cut Roy. If you're gonna keep any of them, pick one. And I would choose either Roy for the Smash nostalgia and also to represent an era of Fire Emblem that's not currently represented, or
Mm-hmm.
Lucina because she's the most popular of the three, and then just
Yeah.
find a way to differentiate her from Marth in whatever way
Yeah.
you got to do it. I don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then give us different characters that will be unique and are not Alir.
Yeah.
But like we
There.
added in Tiki, we added in
Mm-hmm.
Anna, we added in Edelgard, we added in Celica. Any of them would be unique for us. Like, okay, yes, Celica is another one-handed sword fighter, but Celica is also light magic, and she has a whole gimmick to how her light magic works that you could work around. There are so many different ways that you can go with this franchise, and Smash just refuses to. God.
It's a frustration. I mean, it's at one point as a fan of the series, it was pretty funny to just see the characters just keep on coming in and seeing people whine about it. And I'm like, keep them coming. Just keep them coming. Like when Corrin was announced, I thought it was so funny at first. But then I'm like, yeah, this is becoming a little much in certain
Yeah.
areas.
What I love is that like even
Yeah.
Sakurai acknowledges it. It's like because for Smash Ultimate's DLC, Nintendo was the ones pulling the strings. They're just like, here's a list
Hmm.
of characters. If you think one of these isn't realizable, talk to us about it. But otherwise, this is who we want. And Sakurai went on the record to say, like with Byleth, he was like, are you sure we want to add another Fire Emblem character? Because we already have a lot, and the fan base is kind of about it. And Nintendo's like, no, Byleth, add him in. We want to promote more copies of Three Houses to be sold. Let's be honest, we all know that's why he got on. Not that he's not a good character, although he doesn't work how either of us thought he should, and we made our whole episode about that.
Yep.
Nintendo was the one
Yep.
saying, like, no, we want him in. And Sakurai's like,
Hmm.
okay, all right,
Hmm. Hmm.
I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Intelligent Systems and Game Freak and the Pokemon Company. I feel like they pull the strings a little bit with what's happening in Pokemon and Fire Emblem and Smash.
I don't know if
And
Intelligent
that's
Systems
kind
does,
of.
but Game Freak and the Pokemon Company as a whole entity definitely does.
Hmm. Hmm. Or if not Intelligent Systems, then Nintendo with the Byleth promo and the Corrin promo and the Roy promo. I wouldn't be surprised if that was all their meddling over the years. It's like,
I don't think that's Intelligent Systems meddling. I think it's Nintendo themselves.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because like also
That's
Marth
true.
and Roy originally were not going to be in the international release of Melee. They were going to be left for Japanese only.
which would have been so weird. Like, thank goodness they did not do that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Smash made Fire Emblem a thing. That was, before the whole story of Awakening saving the series. Smash did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Melee is actually Roy's first appearance in a video game because his Fire Emblem game got delayed.
Yeah.
It's like, whoops.
And it's Corrin's first appearance in the West was Smash 4.
Yeah, because Fire Emblem Fates had released before Corrin was out in Smash in Japan, but it hadn't come to America yet.
Yeah, definitely. So there's Fire Emblem, and as for Zelda, again, we know the issues, and we addressed them, and we did a good job picking some characters for it.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at this list here, I'm like, wow, there are still characters that, in my mind are like, wow, they're missing from the roster. I could add like double the amount of these characters and I'd still be happy. Yeah. But what we have here is solid. I mean, Link and Ganon in the original, that was an inspired choice, putting him in right away, as in his big form. Which gave us the opportunity to have him in his sorcerer form later on. I think 64 was the game.
No, Melee.
Melee. And then Zelda, Tetra, arguably a more interesting variation than Sheik, in my opinion. Midna, amazing. Tingle, that happened. That was something that we did. It was a last minute decision. I remember you're like, oh my god, I think Tingle makes sense.
It was not a last minute decision, actually. I don't remember exactly the order, but I know like when we got to the Zelda discussion, we were just like, okay, here are the characters. Everybody like kind of give the thoughts on them. It's like because I mentioned like, yeah, I don't have a Zelda character to introduce here. You mentioned Skullkid. Like, yeah, Skullkid is good. Also mentioned the Masked Link having Deku, Goron, and Zora Link taking up 3 slots like a Pokemon trainer, as well as Tingle. And I don't remember what my arguments were at the time, but I was basically just like, here's what you don't realize that you've done. Tingle is actually in the perfect position at this point in the timeline where he is actually the best choice to add in of these 5 options. It's like he had like the most relevance at the time. I think maybe because like this might have been around the time when like when Rosie Rupiling was released. I'm not sure at all, but like the Zelda franchise, like first of all, like none of the like I think the most recent game that would release at this point would have been Skyward Sword, at least other than the big new titles. I think maybe Wind Waker HD may have come out around then. I'm not sure, but Tingle's in Wind Waker.
Yep,
He had his own games. Skull Kid hasn't been. I don't think Majora's Mask 3D may not have released yet. So it's just like Skull Kid is like Tingle's the most recent of these characters, and he has his own popularity. And he also lets them have like a weird oddball character that nobody would expect to see coming. Tingle makes sense. And he was also like even like during actual Brawl period, Tingle was highly talked about by the fan base as being a potential Smash character. It died off after Wii U for sure. He's not talked about anymore. But there was a time where Tingle was one of the most talked about Zelda characters for Smash.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm for it, and I'm still kind of for it. If he appeared as a wild card Zelda character, I would be a little like, what? Like, what happened? But I wouldn't be mad about it. Like Piranha Plant, I was mad about.
Yeah, that's the sticker for me. We talk about
easiest
we talk
exclusion
about Piranha Plant. What the
easiest exclusion we ever did on this roster as far as the canon characters go.
But the hardest exclusion was Ice Climbers. Complicated reasons because like we love the Ice Climbers. I was so disappointed when they weren't in Smash 4. But with this kind of a project, Ice Climbers never made sense of the character to add on. And we had 2 back-to-back episodes with Kelly and Eebit where they were both saying add the Ice Climbers. We were just like, we want to, but with this timeline, it doesn't make sense because we had other things for our what's the word? Our
Duo
retro
character.
characters, retro and duo.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they were going to get in, it would have been either 64 or melee. That's with the duo
Mm-hmm.
concept. But then you had um Danbei and Hikari, and for Wii, I was planning to do Baby Mario Brothers, which is part of why I was so resistant to Danbei and Hikari. And in all fairness, I should not have been for that reason. That was me kind of breaking the rules and looking ahead when I should
Mm-hmm.
not have been. Which is
Mm-hmm.
that's why I was so against Danbei and Hikari. Because I felt like if we did that, then that means I couldn't do Baby Mario Brothers next. It's like shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm losing my thing. But
They
when
made
you
it in.
already have like the only reason ice climbers were here, or were added was for the duo mechanic. That's why they got the nod, and now they are legacy. But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make sense at that point in the world or in the timeline that we were at. It just wasn't good. They weren't a thing
Yeah.
that you would think to include.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. They became a nothing character. Unfortunately, there's something in our proper world, but in this alternate world that we were developing, Donkey and Ikari, and then later Baby Mario Bros. Totally invalidated them. There was no reason for them to be there.
Yep.
And then you isolated it. They're a bizarre. They are a flash in the pan. They are a shot in the dark. Just their inclusion was Sakurai's pure meddlesome creativity. He had an option to include a retro character, and he went with them because he is a mad lad.
Yes, he is.
Because Ice Climber, like the game, sucks. It's not good.
It's
It's
bad.
it's it's not good. It did not make a mark. There's not much historic about it. It's just a game Nintendo did, and there it is.
Yep.
And he was like, "Oh, hey." And that could have been anything. It could have been Balloon Fighter, Excite Bike. He even says that himself. Like, "Oh, I was picking between these different characters we still in Nice Flowers."
Speaking
So for our
of,
purpose, yeah.
no, go on.
No, that's just kind of the thought. For our purposes, they were invalidated. But
Yeah.
what?
It's like on a similar topic about like how Ice Climber didn't make it in. We were talking about like how many Smash veterans didn't make it in. There was 3 Smash veteran franchises that did not get a single character, but they all were at one point. This were they all discussed? One of them may not have been discussed. I think one of them was not discussed, but like Ice Climber obviously never got any representation.
Mhm.
Tekken never got any representation, but we did. I think we discussed Tekken.
Mhm. It might have been Kazuya.
Yeah.
I remember talking about.
Yeah. We talked about you chose Kazuya. Wait, hold on. I have this that we did have Kazuya.
Someone chose Heihachi, I think.
No, Heihachi was in the original game that we did before we did it this way.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right. Okay, so I guess I missed that part. There's only 2 franchises that didn't get a character that actually had one in the original Smash: Ice Climber and Arms.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and Arms was nominated. Ribbon Girl was nominated by Eebit in the final episode, but we ended up not going with Ribbon Girl.
Mhm.
Largely, I think,
Yeah, and
just
that was what.
because like Arms is not. Honestly, we talk about the choices that were added into Smash Ultimate for DLC. Min Min is still the weirdest pick to me of all of them. Min Min's the weird one. It's like Arms, I don't think did very well. It wasn't. It didn't blow up with its popularity like Splatoon did, and there's no evidence of a sequel anywhere on the way. Why? Why did Arms get rid? It's not like they needed to push sales for it. It was not a recent game. It was 2018 or 2016, whatever it was. It's
Mhm.
just so weird to me. Looks like 3 years later, this game that died, to my understanding, died pretty quickly, gets a character? What?
Mhm. If it were to get a character, they'd pick the right one. I'm glad they did. But of the options.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is bizarre. And Arms, I mean, it looked great. The cosmetics, the aesthetic, it had
It had an
similarities
interesting
to Splatoon in
concept.
that regard, where it's very contemporary for Nintendo, especially. The characters look great, but the execution of the game, it was bad. It was not great. It was not great. The only thing that I could have thought of was, oh, they're going to do DLC or a sequel. Nothing ever came of that.
I mean, there was DLC. There were free characters that were added to the game, but
Oh yeah, I know, but not around Smash DLC time.
no.
Yeah, that was bizarre. But yeah, Kazuya's there, so yeah, it's just those two. Makes sense. Makes sense that it would be those two. There were a couple that I remember being on the fence. Like I recall Captain Falcon was in contention, and we almost didn't go with him. And honestly, yeah,
And
looking back at that moment,
yeah,
yeah,
you were arguing against him, and for fair reasons, because we, definitely have like Smash's existence mindset, which is also kind of calls back to the whole original Donkey Kong versus DK Jr. debate. Uh,
mm-hmm.
I feel like I still stand by Captain Falcon getting in when he did, because F-Zero wasn't dead yet. It was still
Mm-hmm.
alive and kicking. Now, would a better place for him maybe been GameCube? That's a possible argument. But I don't think it was necessarily wrong to include Captain Falcon. But we definitely had uh, we definitely had like a rules break is where we were thinking about canon Smash.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, and I was on the other side of that fence. I didn't want to include him for that reason, and I do think it was one of those times, but it was my perspective because I was arguing against it, so I wasn't sure if you'd shared that. Where I feel like Curb especially, but you peppered it in because he preferred Falcon as well. It's like, okay, here's where we're like, oh, but what would Smash be without Falcon? It's like, I don't know. This is our opportunity to find out because this is not our Smash,
Right.
in this world. But that was kind of the argument. It's like, but it's the meme guy. He's so funny. He's Captain Falcon. And you're
I
like,
think
yeah. And
I
I was
think
like,
if
what?
I think the character against him had been something higher profile and not a wave race character, I think there might have been a better argument against like not including Captain Falcon, because Captain Falcon wasn't one of my nominations for that episode. Curb Walker's the only one that nominated him. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that it was like Captain Falcon or Ryota Hayami, who I don't know wave race. It's just like, okay, that's just a guy on a fucking jet ski. I picture Captain Falcon better. I'm going
Yeah.
Captain Falcon. And if he hadn't been included, I would have nominated him for GameCube easily. Uh, don't know who I would have dropped. Honestly, possibly Balloon Fighter. Either that or Sheik would be who I would
Mm-hmm.
have dropped for Captain Falcon on the main roster, or maybe Wolf O'Donnell. One of the three of them would have been
Yeah.
gone for Captain Falcon. But
Yeah. Yeah, okay. And we hit that. I mean, we hit that argument a few times. Like, oh, like shock the canonicity of the character, or their relevance to the franchise, or their sales numbers versus other sales numbers. Which is my argument for Ryota Hayami over Captain Falcon at the time. We saw it again games later. Like I remember that being the argument, like Marie versus Palutena. It's like, who's more interesting to you, Asa? It's like, well, that's easy. It's Marie. That's kind of where we went with it. So there were a few times where we had moments of contention that you and I mean, even reflecting on it, just disagree, and that's fine.
yeah,
That's the nature of what this game creates.
that's why we have a guest
Um,
on for or not Ultimate Tournament, Tournament of Champions.
oh hell yeah, yep, absolutely. Is there any other points that we want to touch on, like franchises or areas
There's
that we
something I
haven't?
kind of want to go down a list for, because we mentioned that
Mm-hmm.
we originally did a project like this, just the two of us, and we had some very different character choices for that. And there was a good handful of characters that we discussed in that one. Maybe not necessarily characters that we just included, but like characters that we even discussed then that would never were even discussed for this Roster Redux. In some characters,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, this doesn't surprise me that we didn't discuss this one, but then there's some that do surprise me. So I kind of thought it'd be fun to like
Yeah.
go down the list of all those characters and be like, we never talked about Adelaine,
Yeah.
but we considered them
Odd.
twice in the previous rendition of this project. Both were nominated, both times nominated by you for Wii U and Switch, and got denied. I was like, it's kind of surprising that we never discussed Adeline here. I think maybe if we gotten more
Mhm.
Kirby characters added in overall, we would have gone back to Adeline. But like with Susie, I think Susie got rejected twice,
Yeah,
or at least was rejected for the Ultimate episode, so was nominated again the following one.
I remember it being a point where it's like, "Oh, Jake loves Kirby. We'll mention Susie," and then he was like, "Who's Susie?"
That's not the second. That's the not the first time that's happened because we were going to do a for Susie years ago on the podcast. We were going to invite Jake on. It's like, who's that? That's a Kirby character. It's like, yeah,
It's like, I must say, sir, it's not just a Kirby character; it's a character from
the
arguably, I
most
mean, in my
popular
opinion, and
2D
many,
game.
yeah, the best 2D game. Sorry, Sakurai and Superstar, but yep,
So
he had a
that's
good
interesting
20
to
plus
me.
year run.
We also
Hmm.
didn't discuss Alex from Golden Sun, which isn't necessarily a big surprise itself. Even though we did
Hmm.
include Isaac, but I think we only added Isaac in like very late.
Yeah, at that point where he would have almost been considered retro, almost.
Yeah. We didn't. We had Alm was nominated for the N64 Smash in the original run of this, which is kind of a
Interesting.
yeah. I'm not too sure why I did because I haven't done that. I nominated Alm for that one.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, like for this time around, I nominated Seliph
Hmm.
because it was like the more recent Lord. I think I probably did Alm back then because you had your whole thing be like Seliph on his horse, or no Sigurd on his horse. I was just like no. But then I nominated Seliph because more recent, which I think makes more sense
Epona.
than Alm. We also Archeops was mentioned was nominated because
What?
okay, it's because of you. You didn't nominate it, but it is because of you because of your Pokemon Trainer in moveset on the Smash W Wiki
Hmm.
that rotates between Archeops, Zoroark, and Kling. And so, in the original version of the Roster Redux project we did before the podcast, when it came to the Wii U version, I nominated Pokemon Trainer concept of Archeops, Zoroark, and Kling. So that's why they were there. Obviously, Archeops and
Okay.
Kling were not discussed for this project. Zoroark was, but that's why that
Hmm.
was there. So not surprising that wasn't discussed here. But then also Dark Pit was never brought up. You
Hmm.
nominated Dark Pit for this for Smash Ultimate in the first version of this,
Yeah.
which was a choice. Uh, Darkrai also got nominated by you the first time around, but wasn't for Roster Redux.
Hmm.
Professor Egad, we never brought up Egad. You nominated him for the next gen one. I'm guessing he probably didn't make it just because well, actually, no, it's because you nominated King Boo. You probably went King Boo over him this time around. And I know like he was on
Yeah.
my shortlist at times, but uh like I'd mentioned I honestly I was on a Baby Mario Brothers kick.
Yeah.
That's largely why. If I had gotten Baby Mario Brothers in sooner when I wanted them, I probably would have nominated EGAD for the last episode.
Hmm. No Luigi.
What?
No
Would you?
Luigi.
No, absolutely not. Guiji, we weren't picking Echo Fighters, sir.
Could be his own man
I mean,
now
I
and
guess,
forever.
but no. Eevee was nominated by me in the first project we did for this. Did
Hmm.
never got discussed here, although Sylveon was. Elma was
Hmm.
nominated by both of us in the old project, but we'd never included her or never even discussed her here.
Sad, but hey.
Xenoblade is hard to do though. And also when we first did this, Xenoblade 3 hasn't been announced yet. So
Yeah.
that's probably why we never brought up Elma.
Yeah, Xenoblade X or Cross, that is the redheaded stepchild of the series, but it's still a great game. I would like to see it remastered, but
Yeah.
whatever.
F Type from Stunt Race FX was nominated in the first round, but not discussed here. Gardevoir, I mean, when it comes to the Gen 3, if we hadn't been doing like, Blaziken for our fire starter, Gardevoir I would imagine Gardevoir probably would have been the nominee for Gen 3. It's like they're like the big popular Gen 3 Pokemon outside of Blaziken, to my knowledge.
Yeah, Blaziken, maybe Sceptile, Gardevoir, Idog.
Heihachi. Heihachi we added because, that's who everybody just talked about for as a Tekken rep. But now that we know Kazuya and we understand Sakurai's opinion, we went Kazuya instead of Heihachi.
Mm-hmm.
Jibanyan from Yokai Watch never got discussed.
Yeah.
I'm actually the one that nominated him that first time through, and he ended up getting denied. Cling, as we mentioned, Labo Man. I think that was probably around, when Nintendo Labo was still relatively new. We didn't know that Nintendo was going to drop it like a rock.
Cardboard is the future.
Cardboard gets wet.
Not the only thing.
Another Xenoblade character, Laura and Jen from Xenoblade Chronicle 2 Torna, the Golden Country. We never brought them up, but again, Xenoblade 3 was a thing now, so that was more important. Mallow from Pushmo. Probably the weirdest one for me, Meryl from Pokemon.
Oh, I remember that.
Because I was trying to think of like Gen 2 Pokemon. I was like, man, I don't know who I want to include from Gen 2. Not Pichu. Hey, Meryl was one of the early ones that was in the marketing. Meryl.
There are so many cool Gen 2 Pokemon though, like for Alligator, Heracross,
Sudowoodo.
Sudowoodo. Yeah, I'm like, okay.
I honestly
What
don't know why I
choice.
did Meryl way back then. It was like very easy. It's like, yeah, no, we can kill Meryl. More Xenoblade, Mecha Fiora.
Would have been cool, but we got our 3 representing each game.
Medeus from Fire Emblem. Another also Xenoblade character we discussed the first round and did not discuss here. Melia. Man, Fire
again, another great choice. Yeah,
and is on the Smashtopia wiki thanks to me. Melmetal. We not only did we discuss Melmetal, we added Melmetal to the roster. But that was also like before Gen 9 existed. Before Gen 8 existed, actually, I think even. God damn, this was a while ago.
It was. It was.
My ultimate retro character pick, Napoleon from the Hanafuda cards. I wanted to bring him up, but it was like there was always a different retro character that was more important to me at the time. Hello, Balloon Fighter.
That was an era. That was quite the climb for Balloon Fighter, finally making it in.
Yeah. Nia from Xenoblade 2. A lot of Xenoblade characters that got discussed last time, but were not here. And I think it's largely because of Xenoblade 3.
There were several Xenoblade 3 characters that were just head and shoulders above the others.
I mean, we only ever really discussed Noah and Mio.
Noah, Mio, Mwamba.
Dude, it's a new season. Drop Mwamba.
Okay, Console J.
I hate that
things could always get worse.
He's an objectively bad character.
Yeah, he sucks.
So,
I hate him.
There is worth in having characters that are just like, this is a good character to dislike. They are meant to be disliked, or it's like they're fun to hate for whatever reason. Console J is none of that. This is just a piece of shit. Should not get this jester looking fuck out of here. Moving the fuck on. Octoling. We didn't discuss the Octoling. We didn't really need to because we were specifically really just like trying to avoid having like echoes or clones. We're only adding characters based on like their own merits. Not to
Sheldon was a great choice. for a second character.
Yeah. Honestly, all of our Splatoon choices were Sheldon, the Squid Sisters, Cal and Marie, and what was mine?
Big Man.
Big Man. Yeah.
Oh, I would have loved it to be Big Man over this minion-looking fuck. But hey, I nominated him. He's a weapons master, so it makes sense.
Sheldon is a good choice.
Yeah.
You also nominated Ranulph the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
Not surprising that you did it this time.
Likely. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes just like, I don't know who to include, but I have a biased character, so I'm going to include them. And also, we did this, I want to say, probably before Three Houses existed. So it's not like we had that to draw on.
Because then my biased character would have been Edelgard.
Yeah. Richter Belmont was nominated by us twice in the first project, denied both times, and then wasn't discussed here. But that's also largely because we added in Simon in the very second roster game. Or was it the first one? No, yeah, Simon got in on the first episode. So yeah, Richter was never going to be discussed after that. The only other Castlevania character that had a shot was Alucard.
Mm-hmm.
The Savvy Stylist from Style Savvy, one of my off-the-wall picks.
Yep.
Sigurd was nominated by you and actually got added in during Melee. The first time. Sheik. Oh, wait, I don't have it on here that Sheik got denied. Oops. Yeah, shit. Yeah, that happened. Slippy Toad, we discussed originally. Didn't discuss here.
Yep.
Here's one that we kind of sort of did. Toad. We added Toad in the first one, but here we didn't bring up Toad, but we did discuss Captain Toad.
Mm-hmm.
Toon Link. We were really avoiding having multiple links.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we had Tetra to represent Legend of Zelda, which I'm looking at. Oh, interesting. We added when we did this before, we added Toon Link during Brawl, and then added Tetra during Ultimate.
Mm-hmm. Weird.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do that now.
This time around, we just added Tetra during Brawl, and I had no Toon Link.
Yeah.
And then there you go. The last three were Wart from Mario 2, Yuri Kozukata from Fatal Frame, and Zero Suit Samus.
Yeah, I mean, all Fatal Frame, I mean, it's a rights thing. It's kind of weird. And they're just our other third-party characters to consider.
Yeah.
Wart, I like the idea of a playable Wart. I would love that, but there's just too many Mario characters, man.
There's just too many Mario characters. And it's like, even looking back to like, starting with like, say, Wii U 3DS era, Rosalina was still on the table. We only finally added Waluigi in that game. There's the smaller the sub franchises of like adding in Dixie Kong, and then for Ultimate we brought on Rosalina. You brought on Koopalings, Captain Toad, Fawful, and Gino were also discussed, as were Baby Mario Brothers, and then the final one, Gino, Daisy, Captain Toad again, King Boo, Cranky Kong, Donkey Kong Jr., Baby Mario Brothers again. All of them were again discussed. I think there's a Wario character though. I'm not seeing where they were. Maybe we didn't discuss. Did we not discuss a Wario character for next gen? Looks like we.
I thought we discussed
Captain Syrup. And then we discussed Ashley in the Ultimate episode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's just so much concern with Mario, and it's like, I don't. I feel like
even then, I mean, yeah. Even then, like now, I would be like, oh, Pauline is another choice. There's just so many.
Yeah,
there's so many.
Pauline is a good choice now, but I also like, I swear to God, if you get in before Waluigi, I'm gonna flip my shit.
I know. Agreed. It kind of feels like it's his last stand at this point.
If Pauline does get in, though, something I want her to do, I want her to throw her hat like you throw Cappy. I don't want it to have like Cappy like Prophets where it can capture things, but like do some hat throwing with Pauline. She's got a big enough hat to do it.
Yeah. She can take K. Rool's crown for a walk with that thing.
Oh yeah. Actually, yeah, kind of like K. Rool's crown toss. Fuck.
Maybe do have it have the ability to spin in place for some reason. That'll differentiate it.
Oh yeah. Why not?
There
And
you
so
go.
like, I think like one of the Smash Brothers hacks where like they changed character movesets. They do that with Mario, and like they changed his side special to be Cappy Toss, and he can like jump off the hat like you can in Odyssey.
Yeah. Nice. Interesting. Okay. What is one character
Mm-hmm.
from this entire roster? Just any character. Pick one that you're just so happy is there. Who lights your heart like no one else?
I feel like Gina was a cop out answer here.
And Waluigi would be too. So for
Yeah.
but they're the obvious
So
ones.
let me go through
Yeah.
all the ones that like I had nominated. And let me take a look at this. It's like obviously like
Okay.
there's some that like we all know I'm a big fan of them sort of. Like we saw how much I argued for Baby Mario Brothers. So I feel like that's kind of a cheap one for me to say here too. Actually, oh, you know what? I might say Tiki.
Okay.
Because
Cool.
that was one that like Herb Walker had nominated and came as a surprising nomination for both, which was like, oh shit, Tiki been on because like Herb's
Yeah.
not even like a big Fire Emblem person. I don't think he knows
Yeah.
anything on Fire Emblem. He was just like, this looks like a fun character. I'm just like, you're right. And Tiki it could actually be like a really good choice here because it's not like we're that far removed from the Arcanea saga yet. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's like this is actually an interesting choice and it's something unique. It's like if Tiki hadn't gotten in at that point, Tiki wouldn't have gotten added until like Ultimate at the earliest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
That
like that we
was.
got Tiki in there, especially so early on. That was really cool. If there's any others, like I might say, just like in general, fixing Zelda,
Mm-hmm.
getting
Fixing
Phoenix
Zelda, fixing Fire
right,
Emblem. Yeah.
uh, Drago, Drago,
Yeah.
Anna,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Baby Mario Bros. Gino, again. I think it's
Giving
like that
Wes.
grouping basically.
Mhm. Giving Wesker that nod at the very end, and just kind of saying this is takes precedent over Final Fantasy getting a Black Mage.
Yeah,
That was
which
an
Eebit
interesting
really
final
did
moment.
not expect.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I feel like I made it very clear, especially when Chun Li fucking made it on. It's like one per third party franchise. We have so many cool ones to go for. Why are we double dipping in the well? Especially for something like Sephiroth.
Yeah, at least we didn't do that here.
Like at least with
Um
like Chun Li, she's one of the biggest icons of female characters in gaming, and is one of the most
mhm.
crossover characters, much like Ryu is. And at least with Black Mage, it's a different game than Final Fantasy VII. But
Yeah, classic FF.
considering
Yep.
how much I've been arguing for like Albert Wesker and Resident Evil in general, yeah, I
Yeah,
was easily gonna go Wesker for Black Mage.
me too. And
Easily.
it's a surprise that Capcom wasn't represented with a character in Ultimate, a new one.
Yeah. Like of all
Besides
the
Ken. I mean, it's like, yeah.
of all the third party characters that didn't make the cut for our final episode, I would pick Wesker over any of those characters that didn't make it. Over Yuri
Sure.
Lowell, over Kratos, the Lich King, um, Sephiroth, Shadow the Hedgehog, Arthur Morgan. I pick Albert Wesker over any of them.
Yeah, out of that list I do too. Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
For on my end, I like that we have Marshall there for Rhythm Heaven, and that we kind of did the underserved series justice here. Like Chibi Robo's there. Lip and
Isaac.
Drago are there, like these offbeat characters are. Yeah, Isaac is there, Andy's there, Mach Rider's there, Ray Mach 3 is there. Well, there's a lot of interesting lesser knowns or lesser haves in there. And then just rounding out series representations with villains and more interesting characters like Porky Minch, Ravenbeak. Those are highlights to me too. Having East and West in the retro series with Takamaru and Little Mac on the NES is interesting to me. All in all, if I had to focus my sights on one here, just looking over, I would say my moment across the entire series was one that you revile in, the one that hits you with disgust.
We
When
discussed
Donby
this
and Hikari
already.
made in Melee.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like to be fair, like
Yeah,
Mega
yeah.
mentions, like the whole reason I was against them, well, I guess two reasons really was one, I was arguing for Balloon Fighter, and I'd already been rejected once.
Mm-hmm.
And two, I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to bank on us not have a duo character so that for the Brawl episode I could nominate Baby Mario Brothers. But once somebody
Yeah.
card was out, it's
Yeah, and
like
they get
I can't add the Baby Mario Brothers net. I now have to wait a couple games where I can
yeah.
nominate them. You motherfucker.
And for me it was a build up because I didn't get many personal wins across this entire series, to be honest.
Sure.
I got Donby and Kari and I got Sylveon as like the offbeat choices that I somehow won. Otherwise, it was in your court or the guest courts like every time, and that made sense. But I lost DK Jr. historically,
Here's a question for you though:
monumentally.
like, were you
But
intentionally making
yeah,
picks just to be, let's have a funny oddball pick? Is that why you had things like Ryota
no,
or
no, no,
Donbe
no,
or Sylveon? Because that's a John
no.
thing to do.
They were studied choices, and I feel, I made my argument clear in the case of like Ryoto Hayami. It's like, okay, Wave Race is an established franchise at this time. It's had this game and that game out. It has more of a presence in this very moment than F-Zero.
Hmm.
And that was my argument. So I went era by era. I made arguments. I studied like the argument against DK in the original NES. I'm like, he is literally too big. The sprite sheet wouldn't fit him in the same way it would other characters. And I feel like that was glossed over time and again for different reasons. There was a character per series. Don't be and Hikari, 4 roster reduxes in. Eric is like, I choose them. And my reaction was literally, I finally won. It's like, finally. It was unbridled joy for me. And then on your end, there was just
Fury. It's like it definitely felt to me like there were a few times
God.
where like you would have a pick and like from like because I didn't know like what your process was, but there were a few times where I was just like, it feels like Jono was just doing a chaos pick just to fuck with it, and there was no. The time when I felt that the most was Classic Kong. I'm just like, okay, you're just doing this to be a shit, and that had to be a fucking chaotic troll. That's what it felt like with a few
The only
choices. I was just like, the reason why you're not getting your picks is because you're just trolling.
The only time that was ever true is when I picked Diver. I literally had no idea what else to do. So it's like, oh, there we go.
I
Throw a pick.
forgot you nominated Diver. Right. Yeah, okay. I think
Yeah.
that was your most stupid troll pick. It's like, yeah, no, this isn't happening. It's like, and then there were things like, Aaron and Zale. You knew that the odds of them taking pick were both extremely low, but they were big biased picks for you. So it's like, I'm going to include them because I like them and I want to nominate them. It's like fair. But I was like, you
Yeah.
knew going into
Yeah.
that one, it's like the odds of the main pick is like non-existent.
Yeah. 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 But yeah, that was my moment. That's my moment. There were a few times like
I would have preferred the
Oliver. I
moment being
think
different.
that was a stretch. But yeah. So there you go. There you go. Good times.
Overall, though, I think we can both say that while there are some characters that we if we had the soul power, we would have not have picked, or characters that we absolutely would have picked. Overall, I think it ended up being a solid roster at the end of the day. Regardless of
Agreed.
any changes that we may have personally wanted to make. And we got a lot of characters
Agreed.
that we would not have normally discussed if it was just the two of us. Like, we would have never brought up Quote. We would have never brought up Cadence or Stock, Jack and Daxter, Bayleaf. Let's be real. Bayleaf is a stranger pick than my pick of Meryl.
Who? Eric?
Eric.
Was that Eric?
That was Eric.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
We probably wouldn't have said like Sans. So
Sans. If I make hard, we are very. Our thoughts on indie characters in Smash varies very differently from Kelly and Eebit's thought on the indies, and we've discussed this both on and off podcasts with them. So that's a hoof. That's a hoof.
But if I were at the wedding, we would have discussed it in person.
Probably, anyway. Yeah. But like, I liked having guests on to like talk about things that we never would have considered. Like, again, we would never would have included Tiki that early on, but then Kerbwalker did it. It's like, oh, we're adding Tiki. We're absolutely adding Tiki. Fuck yeah! They just added a whole new element, like characters that we wouldn't have given a shine to before.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Pokemon Ranger.
Like Sora made it in way earlier than you would have imagined. Pokemon Ranger. Yeah, it was a good practice. Despite how, it was just physically exhausting at a certain point.
Yeah.
Even in spite of any flaws or any tension, I am glad we did it. I'm glad we had the guests on who we did. I think each of them brought their own unique flavor and viewpoint to the show that was interesting and kept the series fresh. It was overall a fun exercise. The roster is so different from anything else we're ever going to do prior or again. And I'm proud of what we came up with in the end. And I will never do it again.
Well,
not to this extent.
Yeah,
not to this
extent.
Unless we're feeling nostalgic when we're in our 70s.
Yeah, season 20.
Yeah, season 48. Roster Redux.
Well, there's been 2 more editions of Smash released since then.
Mm-hmm.
And only 2.
Correct.
Because bad things.
Smash RPG came out at a certain point, and Smash Kart.
Yeah. So, unless we have more to discuss, I think we're at a point where we can go ahead and wrap things up here.
Agreed.
All right. So, that is a wrap on Roster Redux for the Super Smash Bros. Series. Again, I'd love to do this for PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale someday, and for like a unnamed Microsoft platformer fighting game someday. Who the hell knows when? I'm not going to give a season of expectation. All I'll say is just like, definitely not this season, probably not the following season. Who the hell knows past that? We'll see. But as for next time, it's a Smashtopia episode, making a new moveset. And something I'm going to say about most of the Smashtopia episodes that are going to be in this season weren't necessarily planned this way, but most of these episodes are for characters. Well, I guess when you do a project like Roster Redux, you discuss like over 100 characters. They're all going to be ones that you're interested in. Most of our Smashtopia characters this season are characters that were discussed in Roster Redux. I think only one, maybe 2 characters were not discussed at all this season and during Roster Redux. Actually, yeah, 2. 2 were never. Wait.
Something like that.
No. Only there is one slot that is kind of flip floppy, and it might change. So one or two Smashtopia characters that we are doing this year were never discussed. All the rest of them were. And our very first one, well, they were discussed
At length.
at length. I think that's a good. I was trying to figure out like what would be a good descriptor. So thank you. At length. The next Smashtopia character was discussed at length during Roster Redux. Whether that character made the roster or did not, that we're not saying. But stay tuned.
Stay tuned. This character is so brat.
Oh boy. All right, with that, we are out. That's an episode. See you all in 2 weeks for Smashtopia. Or, if you're watching this after like years later, see you in a couple minutes when you swap the next video or episode.
Yeah,
whatever
seeing
it
it in 2102, the year. Looking back at these archives.
2112?
Something like that.
Sure. I won't be alive then, but have at it. If YouTube is still around at that point, fuck. All right, get out of here. Go do something else with your lives. I'm leaving. Bye.